Okay, here we go. How would you like to really accelerate the growth in your company? Something that really skyrockets your business where you can avoid years of trial and error and just, spinning your wheels and getting nowhere. How would you like to accelerate that growth so you can have the future right now? My name is Robert Poole, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. We've got new videos coming out all the time, a lot of great content. If you like this, even if you don't like this, comment on it, share, like it, do all that great YouTube stuff. It really helps us to get the word out and helps other business owners like yourself. So again, today I want to talk to you about, something that we can do that really helps us get light years ahead in our business, both personally, our growth as a business owner, and our growth of our company. On my previous live, we talked about the concept of using your team of employees or even contractors, if you have them, to get just that fountain of knowledge that's there and the advice that you can't see as, ourselves, just like any human, we don't have all the answers. And, for many years, I had a business partner and we used a top-down management style where we kind of decided what was the best thing to do conversing between ourselves, and then we'd go tell our team what to do exactly without any input from anybody on the outside. And, you really suffer in that point. One of the benefits I had in a partnership, I had a very good partner, which is rare, but we had a relationship where we could bounce things off each other and, come up with new ideas, all that good stuff. If it was just me, like it is now, it's tougher to come up with ideas and things and be able to bounce things off yourself. You can't do it. So, we went through that for many years, and I think it really stunted our growth until we figured some things out, figured out how to use our team for that knowledge. And I can tell you with total certainty that, we have literally made hundreds of thousands of dollars with the ideas and the input from our team that we never had before. And it's allowed our team to take ownership of, problems in the company, to take ownership of their daily job so that they're not just there for a job and a paycheck. They're there to make a difference. They understand the mission of the company, and they're really there to grow. And so that's what we all want in our businesses, because it's a great thing for everybody, from our employees to us in the company. So, how do we take that further? There's a saying that says, your business is only going to grow to the extent that you do as a business owner. And I think there's this perception, certainly it is among salespeople, they'll say, well, they're a natural born salesperson or whatever. And I would submit to you that there is no such thing, because just like sales is a skill, business ownership and entrepreneurship is a skill. It's a skill that can be learned. There's nobody born that way. And, we may have certain tendencies or good at certain areas of things just naturally, but by and large, it's a skill that has to be learned. And so, how do you accelerate that learning, because our companies really are going to grow to the extent that we do. We can't, if Mark Zuckerberg decided to step aside today and he said, hey, guess what? You're in charge of Facebook. Most of us, well, I would say pretty much anybody watching this video couldn't step into that role and handle that company. Eventually maybe we'd be able to figure it out, but we're just not there because we haven't grown with the company. We're just not in that position. And it's the same thing with our little companies, so that, if we want the company 10 times the size that we have now, we've got to grow into the person that can handle that kind of thing. It's the same concept when people win the lottery. It's, statistically, most lottery winners are broke within 2 years, even if they win like $5 million or something. And it's because they go from very, small income, maybe they're making $50,000, $100,000 a year, and all of a sudden they got $5 million. You've got different problems and different issues when you got $5 million than you do, when you're making $50,000 a year. And if you're not able to handle, you don't have the skills to handle that, and you're suddenly thrust into that, big surprise, you're going to have problems. So again, it's about growth for us as a business owner. So the question is, how do we accelerate that? How do we not spin our wheels doing trial and error for years and years? I know I've certainly been there. And, the answer is that we need to borrow somebody else's experience, borrow, the mistakes they've made, borrow the good things that they've done, and be able to see something and model somebody else's success. Tony Robbins is a big advocate of that. It's always been about modeling. If you want to learn how to surf, you don't read a book. I mean, that you can kind of, yeah, that'll help. You'll get there. But if you have a world-class surfer as your tutor, hey, you're going to get there a lot quicker. And I think everybody would agree with that. And it's the same thing in business. And so what I'm talking about is a business coach, somebody that can be, there to guide you and give you access to their experience and the experience of others. Because the cool thing about a business coach is that not only do you have their experience, but they probably work with other clients. And so they've learned lessons from other clients and other mistakes. And so you're really exponentially learning from a lot of people. You can certainly do things like, reading business books or going to seminars, watching videos, all that good stuff. That's all good. And that's all something we should be doing on an ongoing basis. But there really is no substitute. It's kind of like, think about like a professor lecturing in college, yes, you're going to learn a lot during, a semester or whatever. But if you've got a one-on-one tutor that's working with you on that, it's like your growth and your understanding materials will be vastly improved, and the speed of it, which will be improved based upon, that one-on-one interaction that you get. So one of the things with coaches though is people, have this idea that's like, oh, geez, well, let me just find a mentor that, I don't have to pay and they don't cost me any money. But you really do need to pay somebody to do this for you. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one, when you pay attention for one. If somebody's just giving you free advice, you may use it, you may not. But a paid mentor, a paid coach, it's in their best interest, and they will work harder to make sure that, they're giving you the best advice possible, that they're holding you accountable. They don't know you, and quite frankly, they don't care about you, is in the sense that they're not usually a good one, will not be worried about offending you. They'll tell you the truth. Your friend or a local mentor that's just kind of helping you out, they may like you and may not want to offend you and may like, so they may not tell you the truth. The good thing about a paid coach is that they're getting paid to tell you the truth, and they're not really worried about offending you, in general, at least good ones, So it really makes, a lot of sense. And again, one of the biggest things is that it keeps us accountable, because we all know there's a ton of stuff that we need to do, but we've got too many competing things in our business and our daily lives. If we don't have somebody to keep us accountable to the things that we said we've done, if we don't show up knowing that, oh, geez, I got that call with that coach, on Friday, I haven't done X, Y, Z, which I said I was going to do last time. Suddenly you got motivation. It's kind of like being back in school, when that paper's due, and otherwise, if it's just open-ended, you'll never do it. And so a lot of people also confuse a coach versus a consultant. And in my mind, a coach is somebody that you work with on an ongoing basis, for 6 months, a year, or years. A consultant is somebody that will come into your company, evaluate things, analyze things, and they'll say, okay, I recommend you do this, this, and this, and this. You write them a check, boom, it's over. Or, they can be in there for a month or two, or whatever. But it's not an ongoing relationship, not that tutoring relationship. It's more of an evaluation, here's some recommendations type of thing. So we don't want a consultant. That's, Fortune 500 companies love that stuff, but, it's not bad. But, what we're looking for as business owners is somebody that can work with us, on a weekly or monthly basis or whatever. Again, keep us accountable, get involved in our problems as they're coming up. As we grow, they're taking us to the next level. So we want a coach, not a consultant. And again, like we talked about in my last live, there's a huge benefit to that gold mine of resources that your team has, and getting their input, getting them involved in everything. But again, one of the problems with that, even though it's a fantastic thing and you should definitely be doing it, you'll find that after a while, you even in a small group, you start to run into groupthink, if you will. So even the group itself will start to think a little bit about things, and they won't have the same ideas as somebody who's outside the company. So a coach is completely removed from your company, maybe doesn't understand the internal stuff, which is actually can be good because they can see things that you can't see and your team can't see. So coaches are a fantastic way to do it, and when it comes to not just business, but I think we should be able to have coaches in every part of our lives. If you talk to anybody that's very successful, I guarantee that they have coaches in multiple areas of their life. They might have somebody who helps them with their relationships, obviously their business, and even multiple coaches in the business for different aspects of it. They might have, a personal trainer, which is basically a coach. They might have, a person who helps them with their health and wellness, their diet and whatever, because they understand the value of it. You get somebody, like I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, you get somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who makes a boatload of money, but he's got coaches for everything, all the different aspects of his life. And, you'll find that with very successful people, they do that because, again, they don't have time to sit around, read a book, go to a seminar or whatever, because it takes years and years and years. They need to compress that time into weeks and months instead of years. So using a coach is really fantastic. And, one of the things, though, that you're probably thinking right now and is something that a lot of people think about is, the cost of a coach, because if you've done any research, you know that a coach isn't cheap, but it's like anything in life. There's different tiers, of course. You're, a starting level coach, you're probably going to pay, maybe $3,000 to $5,000 for 6 months, ongoing weekly or something like that, or and then there's literally coaches that are $1 million a year or more. I think Tony Robbins, I don't think he does private coaching anymore, but I remember him talking about, this was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, talking about how he charged $1 million a year, and he had a waiting list of people to talk to him because, again, people realize the value of it, that they're going to get and make much more money than they were investing with him. So it appears to be a lot of money up front, or however it's paid, but think about it. It goes back to the concept of, if I gave you $10, would you give me $1 in return? It's like, well, of course, everybody would take that deal all day long. So, if you paid a coach $10,000, but with their help, you ended up making $100,000 in the next year or whatever, you got a 10 to 1, return on your money. It's like, that's a no-brainer. And it's very realistic. If you find the right coach, one little change, I know for me personally, one little change can just make us a boatload of money. And it's that relationship that can only come from an outside perspective. I'll give you another example. People go, oh, geez, 10 grand or whatever, that's just a lot of money, or whatever the amount is, 5 grand, 2 grand, 100 grand, it doesn't matter. But think about this. Here's like a professional. Let's say take a lawyer, for instance. A lawyer goes to a 4-year college, and I was looking at some of the numbers, these days, which is, amazing to me. The average, private college in the U.S. is over $50K a year. So let's say, you went to a 4-year private university, and over 4 years, you're spending $200K. And then you've got, on average, it says, for another 2 years or 3 years, whatever, of law school, another $165K. So you're in it for $365,000. And then you also spent 4 years of your life studying and doing all this stuff where you're not making any money either. And so what's your reward for all that money you've spent, all that time? Well, the average attorney coming out of, law school in the U.S. makes $48,000 a year. Yes, do they have the potential to make $1 million a year down the road, the really good ones? But most of them are not going to. It's just like doctors that, there are good ones, and then there are the elite top end that make some serious money. But again, they have to make massive investment up front. So, if you're telling me, hey, you can go to school for 4 years, you can spend, $350,000, $400,000 at least, just on an average school. We're not talking about an Ivy League or Harvard or something like that. You can do that, and then after all that effort, you can start out and you can make $50K a year from that. It's like, that's not a very good investment if you ask me. especially when you compare it to a coaching situation where, again, if you paid somebody 10 grand and you were able to make 100 grand in the next year because of the changes that they help you make, duh, why, I mean, so you got to put this in perspective. This whole idea that our society has got us into where it's go to school, study hard or whatever so you can get a good job or whatever. It's like, well, that's great to crank out workers for Fortune 500 companies, but as business owners, we're here to make money and we're here to make an impact on our community and the world. And we're not going to do that most likely as an employee. So this is our way to really make a difference. And the way we accelerate that growth again is by paying somebody to borrow their advice, borrow the advice of the others, borrow the experience, so we can avoid those mistakes, that stupid tax that we've all paid on the mistakes that we've made, and take advantage of opportunities that we never would have seen on our own. So if you've got, if you look at the cost, again, just from personal experience, I had a coach, this is 5 or 6 years ago. It was through Tony Robbins, one of his programs, and he doesn't do the personal coaching, but he's got people that he teaches, et cetera. So I think there's hundreds of these coaches, but I had a gal who I started working with, and it was in the typical price range, what I talked about. And at first it's when you first time you do it, you're like, well, I don't know about this person, and it's hard from a business perspective because you're like, I don't really know this person. I know they got the qualifications, and maybe I've looked at testimonials, or they seem knowledgeable and all that good stuff. But hey, let's face it, we don't want to share internal stuff about our company, and it's hard for our egos too, to say, yeah, well, I kind of suck at this whole marketing thing. I need help, So I started working with her, and it took time to get used to things. But over a period of time and working with her, not only did it help me stay accountable and push me to do the things which I knew I needed to do, I just wasn't doing them. But she gave me some ideas, and I can say I easily made over 100K, based upon, a couple of the ideas that she gave me, and probably much more than that. And again, if you look at that, the amount of investment I paid, for that privilege of working with her, I mean, absolutely just a no-brainer. So I can tell you from personal experience it works. And ever since then, I've always had a coach or coaches. I've had coaches in different parts of my business, and I still do. So hopefully I've persuaded you that you really need to look at getting a coach. And so, of course, the question is, how do you find one? And what do you look for in a coach? Well, unfortunately, there's a gazillion, coaches out there on the internet. It's very popular these days. There must be more life coaches than there are realtors in the U.S. But we're looking for somebody who's an expert in a specific area, obviously. Obviously, if we're looking for somebody who's going to help us with personal training or whatever, we're not looking for somebody who's a, quote, life coach, a generalist. So we're looking for somebody specific. So in business coaching, we're looking for somebody that, knows our type of business. And I don't mean necessarily industry, but I mean, if we have a small business, we've got 10 employees or whatever, or it's just us or whatever, we need a different kind of coach with a different kind of experience, somebody who's been there, understands that type of a company, the level that you're at, versus, if you're a larger company, you've got 500 employees and you're doing, tens of millions of dollars or whatever, you need a coach that's got more experience in those things. So, obviously it's the experience and the specialty that we're looking for. And again, we're looking for a real world experience, just because somebody has, multiple PhDs in business and MBAs and all this other crap, it's like, that doesn't mean anything. No offense to higher education, I believe in it, but when it comes to this, what we're looking for with a coach is real world experience, because you can't teach something that you haven't done yourself. And then we also, something I always do, I always ask a coach, when I'm interviewing them, what kind of coaches do you have? Do you have a coach? And if they don't have at least one coach, preferably multiple coaches for different aspects of their life, not even going to consider it, because that person is not committed to growth and not committed to learning themselves. So how can we look to them and expect them to help us grow as a person? So always make sure that the coach that you're looking for or looking to interviewing has a coach themselves. And again, I use the word interview because we need to look at this. Hey, we're paying this person. We're basically hiring them. It's a job, so we need to interview them. Then they interview us and try to use some sales posturing and everything to see if we qualify to work for them, or work with them. But in reality, we have to be very comfortable, persuaded that this person, is the right person for us. So they need to sell us. And so we need to interview them just like we would interview a new employee. And so go back to some of the things we talked about. I did a live a few weeks ago, I think, on, the whole hiring process. And you can use some of that interviewing and some of those evaluation questions, even when you're interviewing a coach. So don't take it lightly because you want to find the right person, And so, of course, now that you know what you're looking for, where do you find them? There's a variety of different things, of course. You can obviously Google social media. There's coaches all over the place. And that's one way to start. I personally like to find somebody who's got examples up there, lots of video and things that show their level of knowledge, their personality, because personality makes a difference too. If you're not, if you don't click with that person, it's not going to work. It's like anything else. But the best way to do it is to is to do it with referrals, like anything else. Ask your colleagues, ask, other business owners, friends, hey, do you know any business coaches? Have you heard about anybody, what would be great is if you can find somebody that works with somebody personally that and that can, vouch for them, so to speak. So there's a variety of different ways to do it. There's enough of them out there that I don't think you have a problem in actually finding one to work with. But the key, again, is interviewing them just like you would an employee. So, bottom line is, as business owners, we don't have all the answers, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that, there's a lot that we're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that we could grow a lot faster if we had somebody else's perspective, the perspective of our team, which is, extremely valuable, as I've talked about in a week or two ago. But beyond that, how do we get out of that group thing? How do we find, somebody who we can borrow their experience? Well, that's the coaching, And so we need to model the success of somebody else, and not get hung up on the cost, because it's like anything. If it's a good investment, which is what it is, it should be a no-brainer. Again, if you pay $10K for something and you can get $100K back, within a short period of time, it's like, man, find a stock like that. The odds of, hitting on a stock that'll do that for you are astronomical, realistically. There's always somebody gets lucky, but but in reality, that's what we're looking at. So I really encourage you to find a coach, make the investment. If you gotta, put something on a credit card, whatever, if you can make more money by investing in a coach than you're paying an interest on a credit card, for instance, hey, again, it's a no-brainer. So I really encourage you to take a look at this. It has fundamentally changed our business, changed my life, and maybe into a better business owner, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So I hope this was helpful today. Again, please subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, click on that little like button, and share it with your friends and colleagues, the people you think might be interested in this, because this can really add to other business owners. And so we're trying to get more business owners involved in the channel as we put out a lot of stuff, which is, we're getting a lot of great feedback that's very helpful for business owners. So we're looking for as many people to subscribe. It really helps me personally, it helps us as a company. So I appreciate it. So thanks for your time today, and I will see you on the next live.